welcome everybody. We had minutes sent to us. We have copies. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? All fair say aye. Okay. Payroll, the amount of $176,019.78. Anything unusual or
No,
I don't know.
I
make a motion to approve payroll in the amount of $176,019.78. I'll second that.
All fair say aye. Okay. Then we need to acknowledge receipt of payroll claims in $303,211.24. That's what it said. I guess you made a payment or something.
think last time you didn't have all the claims total last time we had it.
Okay.
Round last time to the.
Do you know how much carryover there was?
And I think it's only like $100,000.
That's what back to normal range.
Which makes it back without the change. I make a motion to acknowledge and receive the payroll claims accounts payable in the amount of $303,211.24. I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and we have hand type check for Barney Carson.
Barney Carroll with $21,400. This claim for the county highway painting of 6 bridges.
Hey Jim, they're asking me to use the microphones if you guys can. No one can hear anything.
Oh, okay. Just make sure you're Dan, put your mic up there and we're not pull this over here.
Not that one. Your personal microphone.
Oh,
We got the speakers going.
got you.
A lot of music you've been playing out here.
Okay. So it's the painted bridges for the highway department. That's what this have a cycle thing for. And Randy is satisfied with the job.
You're saying the last thing is Carol.
Right.
Yeah, Barney Carroll. C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And it's for the bridges in the Meece, McAllister, Crooks, Big Rocky Fork, State Sanitarian Bridge, and Marshall Bridge. Sum of $21,400. Paint and labor.
I make a motion to approve the hand type check to Barney Carroll in the amount of $21,400 for the painting and coverage. And I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then is Jenny here?
I'm sure she is.
Jenny Gleason with West Central Coal Water Treatment. That's a solid waste district, and so we were talking about the recycling dumpsters out of the old shop coal building. I didn't think they were being as often as apparently they are. She said they're actually dumped all off on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the cardboard on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they're filling up pretty quick. So there's been some time. She said, they may have missed some time. So I'm going to start monitoring that better, make sure they are picked up on those 3 days. Because we've had days where they will pick up piles on the ground.
message.
overnight, so I know they were back early that day. That means it didn't happen.
Let's just skip her along. I know she's on her way.
Okay.
She had sent me a message.
Okay. Then we have a traveler to, from the county highway, insurance payment.
The garage in the building that was closed.
Yeah,
The garage
doors, yeah.
The garage doors, yeah.
So it says we're getting a check from our insurance company to cover the cost after our deductible for that for $10,075. All right. Then we have some ongoing claims here from people who have filed losses. Need to report on those at all, Nick? Anything in the email?
These are just new filings that typical, like, rocks falling off the truck, things of that nature. The one that I would report on was the one we talked to the park department about last week. There's just a letter indicating here that that claim was denied.
Yeah.
After the individual ran into a tree that had fallen. Based on the fact that we had no notice.
Okay.
So that just goes with what Chris said.
Okay. And you got the treasurer's report before him? You guys got any more new business? If I can have anything.
They're asking for microphones to be pulled closer. Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have nothing else from you, business. You guys don't have anything? Okay, old business, with the property in Diamond.
There's nothing new to report there. Notices need to be sent out so we can set bids on the property.
Okay. And Cindy Todd, is Cindy back there?
She's right here.
She is. Did you think in there? So, what you got? Building signs.
So you and Bruce had already looked at this, and Dan wasn't available that evening for that meeting, and you wanted him to weigh in on his thoughts of what Alice had said. So I just came to try to text Dan to get his thoughts before we move forward with an official quote for signage.
I have no problem with it, which I think they did.
Yeah. There was that version, and then just like this, and it was a matter of kind of what the preference was.
Right. Yeah. And I don't remember what my preference was. I remember what the other
This
was.
one.
Yeah. Standalone out front that has them all listed on
Go
there.
ahead and decide that, let's go with that.
Okay, all right. We'll go ahead and get together a formal quote then of what that would be and
Okay.
share that with you. We have a board meeting this Wednesday as well. We'll talk to them and have a possible letter stuff.
All right, this has to do with signage on this building here. Now that we have more than one entity in this building, we need to have some signage out front so people can find what it is they're looking for. And so they're going to get us some quotes now on those signs once people read on what the design should look like. Okay, that's it. Nothing else. Thank you very much.
If you don't need anything else, I'm going to go.
Okay, thanks. You guys have any old business? You know? All right, department report. Well, let's talk about this ordinance we asked about. The ordinance for the Gmail, for the Gmail vendor and what the fine would be was set back in 2009. So that's been in existence for 11 years. We've never had anything in place requiring the landowner to be sure that whatever vendor he has or she has set up on their property, that it's a legal entity, which would mean they would have to have a transient merchant license to be a legal entity. The auditor's office has had to hire people during rich time to go around every year to try to confirm that all those who need to have a transient merchant license has a transient merchant license, and it's kind of a catch-me-if-you-can kind of a thing. It would be our hope, my hope, that we can expect the landowner to make sure that they have that transient merchant license, that landowner can send them in the right direction about how to take care of that. So that's what this ordinance, is directed to. So this is, something that's affecting the ordinance from 2009 as well. It just says, whereas, 2009, that's the year this ordinance was passed, requires that any transient merchant conducting business in Parke County, Indiana, must have a valid CML issued by the Parke County Auditor's Office. And whereas property owners are in a better position to ensure that transient merchants that are conducting business on said property owner's property hold a validly issued transient merchant license. And whereas the county commissioners have determined that a penalty should be imposed for a property owner's failure to ensure a transient merchant that is conducting business on his property possesses a valid issued CML prior to conducting business. And now then let it be ordained that the penalty for a property owner's failure to ensure that any transient merchant that is conducting business on said property owner's property has a validly issued CML prior to conducting business shall be a fine of $500, and said fine shall be imposed per occurrence per day. That is, every separate violation on every separate day shall result in a separate $500 fine. And that in all other respects, ordinance 2009-12 shall remain in full force, except as specifically amended herein. That just makes sure that all the vendors who come to the county to set up a new business as a transient merchant, which means they're doing business at a location other than the location, the address on their retail merchant certificate, that they have a valid transient merchant license according to state statute, that now becomes their responsibility as well. And failure to do that, in other words, if they allow a business to set up an illegal business, illegal because they don't have that transient merchant license, that landowner would also then be responsible and would be in a finable position with a fine of $500 for each business that he allows to set up without the transient merchant license. So the landowner can control that. He doesn't have to go get the TMO for it. He can just simply say you can't set up and you can't operate business until you get that transient merchant license. So instead of the auditor having to chase people around the county to do that, the landowner would be responsible to do that. So that's where we are with that. Okay. So you guys want to discuss on that? You want to act on that today? You want what are your thoughts?
I would consider act on it be done. I have no problem acting on it today. I had one call earlier this week from a property owner about he had a pleasant conversation. It wasn't adversarial. And I explained to him that, as a property owner, he should know what's going on his property. Who is on his property, whether they're there legally or not legally. They have all of the things that they're supposed to have. As a property owner, I would think you would want to do that. You wouldn't want somebody setting up on the property and not fulfilling all the requirements to set up. And he understood that. He wasn't quite sure he should be fined. He said, if I don't live there, I don't know that they don't have it. I said, well, but it's still your property. You're still responsible for that. So we had a good conversation, but he did say he wasn't sure he should be fined. He understood the vendor should be fined, but he wasn't sure he should be fined as a property owner. But
well, it's easy to avoid if you have that fine. You just make sure that
that's what I told him.
Don't let them open up. It's not like you can
order your easily affordable are properly PML, and you'll be okay. But I know it's a lot of work on our auditor's office to have to go and try to find all these people and track it down, who has it and who doesn't. And
the really unfortunate part about that is it often gets confrontational too. You get people who don't want to buy a TML. It's only $100, and if you're doing business at $100, you should have that TML. And it gets confrontational, and the police department has to get involved because they get told over because they get confrontational about it. And I don't think it's the auditor's job or the people that do it on a part-time basis to be hired just for the festival time to go out and hunt them down and do that. I think it's a reasonable thing. I mean, we encourage all the vendors as possible to come and for all landowners to bring as many people as they can. I know Bart Barnes always took care of it of his own in Richmond. I know Mike Rowe makes sure that they all have it done in Richmond. I got a call from a gentleman in man who does live there. He lived there as well, and I think he only has one or two in his place. And he had not thought about that before. He's kind of like the guy whoever you talked to, that he wasn't sure that it was something he wanted to do, but he understood that it probably was his responsibility. He's letting them set up a business, so it probably ought to be a legal business. I'm like, well, we don't like to impose anything on anybody, but it seems like that makes common sense to do it that way.
Well, and it's not for the ones that you never have trouble with, it's for the ones that set up and selling things they're not supposed to be selling, and it's what it's all about. I'm not trying to put more work on the landowner, it's just, if somebody sets up on you, that should be the.
When they pay their
One
rent,
of
they
the
ought to be able
questions
to.
you ask, yeah.
So they have
If
to
they're
know.
paying rent, they don't have to pay for the fee, and that will be done.
What ordinance number would this be?
That's 2020-6.
That's 16?
Yeah.
Well, is our motion to approve the ordinance? You want discussion for it?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2020-6.
16.
16. Oh, 16, okay, 2020-16, I'm sorry. That will require owners, ensure that, the vendors that they have or the people they have on their property do have violation of law, to be, protected on the property. And I'll second.
If I could just, a minute before we vote, just another clarification on that. We already had this type of thing with building permits, for example. It's your responsibility to go get that building permit. And if you don't, and you start business without, then there's a $500 fine, 10 times whatever that your permit is going to cost. It could be more than that. So it's just the responsibility of whoever's doing that work to make sure he has that proper permit so that the Cassie Whitmire, or whatever position, I'm trying to think what it is, plan commission, doesn't have to go chase people down and try to catch them when they're doing that. Just take care of business, get it done, and go do whatever you need to do. So if we move a second, and we adopt ordinance 2020-16, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Now we can jump back to Jay here.
Yes,
You said over here.
George is too. Hi, George.
yeah,
How have you been?
enjoying retirement.
Oh, good. Been throwing a lot of pottery?
I have.
Good.
Got some new blazers.
Good. Good to see you. I was out by your place just the other day. I filled a big hole in up there where we got
Around the corner at the orchard.
right before you get to the stop sign top of the hill, there we got a water drain pipe goes under the road there and it's fading. It's got a big hole there. So I filled it just for me time till I get a chance to get up there and dig it out and do another.
You left the other there's a trap for you.
Yeah.
I had to dodge the other 50 between there and the highway.
Dan, why don't you go ahead and introduce us?
We're on our way forward. George, previous commissioner, is my trustee for solid waste, West Central Solid Waste. There's been a few changes in the process, I think, over there with Montgomery County.
So up in the air.
Up in the air, deciding whether they're gonna back out, and I thought I would just ask Jane to come and present to you guys and bring up the date on what's going on there. And how important it is that we maintain this solid waste.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
Floor is yours.
Okay. I do have a lot of information in here for you, so I can touch on it briefly, or you can read it at your leisure and let me know if you have questions, basically about who the solid waste district is.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we get concerned about, as the council as well, they've asked about, I know that we have a certain amount of money in the bank, and we didn't know how that reflected on the fees that we pay, and what the impact would be if Montgomery County does pull out, how that would impact our share. So if we could explain that stuff for us, that'd be great.
Well, sure. So you're already familiar with what we do and how we do it and all that. Okay. If you would like to flip to page 12, where it says budget, capital reserve, and county contributions.
Okay.
That will show you, I'll wait for you all to get there. That will show you our general operating budget for this year is $302,000. The cash and investments at the end of last year for West Central was $946,793. The district's capital reserve is reduced basically that 900,000, what you're saying that number is, we're using about 115,000 of that every year to offset what the counties are contributing to pay for these programs, so that we don't have to come to you and ask for the full amount.
Okay.
We're using that each year to dwindle that down. It was
Okay.
just at $1.5 million a few years
That's what
back.
I'm gonna recall, yes.
Right, now it's gone down about 500,000 just in 4 years.
Okay.
So that'll give you an idea where we are. The 2019 expenditures for West Central was $2.38 basic person athletics. That covers our whole budget. We're asking each county to contribute $1.75 of that 238, which is what we're using the reserve is covering that difference. The state average is $15.57 a person. So that gives you an idea of how low our number actually is compared to the state average.
That is.
I actually spoke to several other public officials, and I put a sheet in here, so you can see I'm not just pulling this number out fictitiously. Towards the back, you'll see a page that looks like this is a lot of, like a spreadsheet. And it has all of the solid waste districts that respond, what they're spending per capita is.
Okay.
And it shows you at the top that for 2019, the average was 1567. And it shows you the lowest and the highest. The district, I put a little X on here, a little asterisk on the side. You'll see some of these noted, Blackbird, Fayette, nothing against these counties, but not all of them provide household hazardous waste services, such as our toxic days and our electronic recycling. Those are our most expensive programs. So that's what makes the numbers go up for the counties that are providing those services, which is what's not. Those are the most dangerous materials that are being collected and handled properly out of the county.
So it would be accurate when people ask me to say then, they're talking about their tax dollars going to pay for this weed and stuff, that only $2.38 is all it costs each person asking that question.
And we're not even charging that. We're charging $1.25.
Right.
That's what it costs each us,
Right.
the district. Right. So we're not putting that all on you. We're trying to dwindle down that reserve a little bit.
But really, it's not gonna happen, it costs them to have that recycling bin out there at all.
Exactly.
Well,
Maybe that'll be a good time to.
Yeah, if you want to, the page right before that, if you want to look at the numbers, I broke out the 2021 program just for Parke County costs. So if you're looking at this page,
what page is that?
it doesn't have a number on it, I apologize. It's just the one right before the one we were looking at, and it says
Third page from the back.
2021 programs Parke County costs. That's a yellow highlight.
Okay.
Almost the very last bit. That's the last one.
I'll get there.
Did I not put one in there?
There it is. There it is.
Okay, so if you look at the cost, if you just did the toxic day, the electronic recycling day, and paid for the bins that are located at Rockville, at the old shop though, that would be your cost just in contract.
Okay.
That's 60,000 that you're sitting there. What you're contributing right now, if you look towards the bottom of that chart, where it says Parke County contribution to West Central $1.07 per person, is half of that.
Good.
So you're saving basically 50% just on the contract alone. That does not include staff, overhead, anything.
Okay.
That's just the vendor contract.
Okay.
So that'll give you an idea. If you were doing it yourself, just the contract themselves will cost you that number.
Okay.
And then down at the bottom is just a little bit more of a breakdown, just more information. And then you can see the recap on the programs at the bottom. For the electronic recycling day this year, we collected over 9,000 pounds. The toxic day last year, we collected 86,915 pounds of tires, appliances, electronics, and household hazardous waste. And then the rural recycling center at Rockville, we collected 235 tons just at that one location. So, and that does get picked up, I spoke to Dan on Friday, and that does get picked up 5 times a week.
Yeah,
That's our
told
most expensive and our most used,
Okay.
of all of our 9 that we sponsored.
I would then just suggest that I watch it, because I know there've been times,
Mm-hmm.
because I go by it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that's been full,
Yeah.
and stuff tracked around it. And then I know that's been there a couple of days, so either it was filled that very first day when it came in empty, or the pickup was missed that day. I don't know about that, because I was surprised to hear that it picked up 3 times a week, so that's great.
Yeah.
Well, there's one van gets picked up 3 3 times.
Yeah,
That's,
so many.
Cardboard.
that's recycling, cardboard is Tuesday and Thursday, yeah.
Right. Monday and Thursday.
Monday and Thursday.
Right,
And the other's Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the one with the doors on.
I can't do any better than that, so if that's the case, I'll.
And we have been having some extra pools. The driver's really good about when he gets there on a full day and it just looks like more than he can pick up on that one visit, they will send me a picture on my phone. And then I will authorize them to go ahead and pull an extra pool, which we get charged for that every time we do that. But we have been doing that just to try to keep that eliminated. We don't want
What's
that
the
floating
cost
around.
for the extra pool?
It's about between 150 and 175.
Good to know that it's not a killer, but it's still money, but it's not a killer.
Right.
Because we have different events going on, of course, during this time.
Right.
So,
And during COVID, it's gotten worse.
Right.
I mean, it's been that problem to have people at home more, they have more time to do the recycling and the separate things that are eating at home more. So we're getting more materials, but we are also trying to keep up with those extra pools.
Where are we at with Montgomery County, and how do you think that's going to affect it?
I have not heard anything from the county government, other than what was in the newspaper. I've heard nothing.
okay. So what I read that they were, and I think the number was 36,000, I don't know why, but they felt they could say that's by having their own and hiring their own people, creating jobs, that the net result would be all of them doing the same they had before, creating jobs and do that, and still say 36,000, but that number I may make up in my head, I'm not sure that number's
What
right.
they said in the paper was 24,000, but I can tell you that the numbers that they presented at the commission meeting were not accurate. They were estimates, they were speculations, they were not true factual
Okay.
numbers.
So they may not make any changes.
No.
Okay.
I would think that they would have to cut programs if they're gonna fix them.
Looks to me like it's a pretty good deal. It's hard to imagine that when we're paying $1.50 or $1.75 a person a year to have that recycling out there. So I think that's worthwhile.
Well, and not just that, I assume that the people in the county are aware, they could go to Montgomery County on a talk-to-away day. And
Yes, that's the thing.
I was unaware of that.
They go 3
Yeah,
times.
I didn't know that. We need to get that
And
information.
I have a flyer here for you, of course, because we have a talk day coming up on September 12th. So there is a full-page flyer. We put this in the paper, and it does say at the very top, residents of Parke, Putnam, and Montgomery are welcome at all talk days. And so that's the other thing, is that right now, our 3 counties, they have 4 opportunities between the 3 talk days and the electronic day. If they go on their own, then they're going to maybe have 1. Because they won't be able to utilize the ones in Parke and Putnam any longer. Or they'll maybe try to.
Those talk-away days alone is tomorrow, worth that about a half year.
Yeah.
Just to have some place to take that stuff and go. It is, yeah. And that would mostly end up either in our dump or just one of the other.
Yeah. It's one of those things, probably pictures aren't glamorous, they're not, one of the things that are on the top of people's heads all the time. It's one of the things that you probably won't notice us until we're not there.
So
Right.
those are what-
Because I remember, I've been here for 25 years. I remember what the roads looked like before we had these services
Right.
going on, and there was nothing in place to take tires and appliances and pesticides, and you see all that stuff littering in your ditches. There's hidden costs that you're gonna come up with. If you're not a part of the solid waste district, you're still gonna have to manage those things. That's still state required in the statute that we take care of all of those hazardous and problem waste.
If you're available, I think it'd be great if you wouldn't mind doing the same thing you did today for us, for the county council. They meet the second Thursday of the month
Okay.
at 9 o'clock, same place.
Okay.
They're the ones that pay the bills.
Sure.
We just tell them where to spend it.
I have no problem with that. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
But if you wouldn't mind coming explain that, 'cause this drives me, I had no idea that per person was that cheap.
And I guess you need to put her in contact with
John Pratt.
John Pratt. And let you look something out.
I'd be happy to.
If it's all right with you, I'll give John your number.
Yes, and my information is on, if you ever need anything, on this last page of this main report, on page 15, where there's questions at the bottom, all my information is right there.
That's perfect.
We'll make sure John gets that, but you coordinate with him.
That would be great.
It was kind of, I think more than anything concerned, if Montgomery County did pull out, or is our cost going to go up excessively?
I'm not anticipating that.
Report it,
I'm not anticipating.
which you understand how things, in this day and age, it's every dime counts, so.
That's true, and we do everything we can to keep our costs. We probably run the tightest ship that we can find, because we don't do anything that's not necessary.
Well, I appreciate you coming and sharing with us. That's good stuff to have.
Great.
Thank you very much.
George, did you have anything to say?
Well, I do have a question. What is the response, but how does it work? Because it happens all the time, and I'm sure, I hope we're not the only ones, but when you get, when the bins are full, people are just, we tell them take it home and bring it back when the bins aren't full, but they leave it there. Self-recycle, they leave some trash that I end up having to cut up and take care of myself or just put it away, just because I don't want us to lose that facility.
Right.
But when they just have the bags packed up alongside, what happens with that stuff? If it won't fit in the bin, the driver has no place to
The
put
driver
it.
has to come back and do it himself.
He'll come back
And he
after he
doesn't-
loads.
Yeah, he's not being paid for that, that's not his job to do that, but what we've been trying to get through to people is two main things. One, always flatten your cardboard, because that just saves money in the bin. The other thing is, when people bring those large lawn bags of plastic bags full of recycling, I understand that's how you collect them at home, and that's, you just pull them every time and take them and stuff them in there, but it takes up so much room. If you would just put those bags up and dump things in there loosely, it'll fill in all the, and you could get 5 times as much material.
Okay.
So that's the main thing we're trying to get. I've been putting ads in the paper.
Explain that would be a good idea. It makes sense that it would fill all those spaces that aren't being filled with a big bag.
Right, and I've been putting things in the paper.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I've been putting a lot of things in the paper recently, I don't know if you've seen anything, but about the misuse of the bins and not leaving things out because it's,
Right.
it's unsightly, and then don't put things that don't belong to that contaminates the whole load. And,
Right.
we have a lot of findings up there already, getting people to read it.
Yeah.
The different stories, without me standing there personally and
Sure.
instructing each person, which I have done. I've driven Savannah out, picked things up, just because I didn't want it looking like, oh, here's a free dump. You know, you don't want to encourage others, and I appreciate that. So we're doing everything we can do. If you have other suggestions, or something you haven't tried, we can have to do that.
I don't think it's any emphasis, I don't think anywhere on any signage that I've seen anyway about opening the bags up.
No, that's a new
Wait,
thing that
do
we've
that.
been talking about. That's what we're trying to get that in the paper.
Okay. So I can do that.
I actually asked the hauler if they could somehow, like, take some stenciling and like spray things out on the end of their bins, like in bright,
Right.
bright pink, because I thought that would direct people's attention when they're walking up there, but that's a lot for them to do.
Yeah.
But we'll keep working on it.
I appreciate the information. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
George, good seeing you.
Good to see you again.
Okay. Looks like you need to slow down your dance a little bit there. You're walking a little tough. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I got one foot, one knee, 2 hips, and 1 back operation, so.
Those that don't know, George was a commissioner, how many years?
32.
Yeah, he's been president of the board here for 30.
Yep. Long time. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Dan.
Hi, George.
Hey, how are you? Huh? What's gonna happen down there, you waiting to see?
Yeah, wait and see. We need to approve then our,
Go ahead and address this one.
that's what I got right here. Yeah. Yep. So we just need to vote on our payment would be, see, number here somewhere. $30,343. That's $1.75 per person based on the current census. So we would just need a motion to approve the payment of $30,343 to West Central Solid Waste District. So I guess I just made that motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right. Moved and seconded to authorize a payment of $30,343 to West Central Solid Waste District. All in favor, say aye. Three, 7, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. All right, Chris O'Brien. Did he come? Okay. Chris O'Brien is our emergency management director. How's your day?
All right. I'm the only big update I have is just to turn that money into the reimbursement of the CARES Act. And they approved it. We're just waiting for it to come in.
Great. Okay. appreciate your letter, the bridge was very insightful. There's a lot of things people don't think about, the fire first responders and other things, I appreciate that. Anything from us, you need?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chris. Did we miss something old business or something? Did we skip that?
Oh, I did skip that, because Cindy was here, that's right.
He brought it up, I told you that I hadn't sent out yet.
Oh, that's
So, but I have a report on that, so that's great.
Okay.
All right, we did.
All right, Justin, sheriff's not here, but Jason was. Jason said he didn't have anything.
I'm still here if you need me.
Nothing you need. Okay.
Nope, thanks.
Randy Norman, is he back there?
Nope.
And Julie Lansdowne is not there. So do you guys have any other business? All right, then you
Well, yeah, I think we probably ought to, for Julie, or,
okay, go over her report.
I was telling Nick before we started, we got an email from Julie last meeting, like at 2:00 in the afternoon. But I didn't open it up before our meeting,
Right.
so we didn't talk about it. So I made sure I responded to her after our last meeting, that we just didn't talk about it because it wasn't brought up, because we didn't get her email, before the meeting. But Laura has put a copy of that request that Julie made 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure if it's maybe something we want to talk about, or maybe we want Julie to be here to talk about it, but she has a paramedic that, has lost some vacation time, and she's asking us to, approve, him to use some vacation hours, because he's working overtime due to, the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. It's probably something that Chris can get us reimbursed for overtime, that kind of thing, but anyway, this letter about, Jerry Cox is, I don't, something we want to try to address tonight.
We have done this on 2 other occasions. We did it for, a dispatcher, Bill, because he couldn't take time off, because he had to work, because he had to have a dispatcher. And we just did it for someone else, what was the other time. But I know we've approved using that time when they just couldn't take it off because of circumstances. In this case, it's really the COVID, so I'm fine with that. Is that your motion then to approve those?
Yeah, I make the motion that we approve, Jerry Cox to go ahead and, utilize his vacation hours that he's lost due to having to, work extra hours due to the pandemic.
And I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Laura, you got Julie, approve that, please.
And I'll have Colleen go into our computer system and update the computer system to put that time back on, because what computer system does is drop that time
Drops
off.
it off after.
Yeah, and then Colleen has to manually go back in there and change that.
Thank you.
Can't be short-handed. He's willing to work overtime, still in us favor, we'd be right to take.
No, you're not. No. Anything else, regular business stuff? If not, then let's move on to the decision about the covered bridge festival, whether we were going to have one for 2020 or whether we're going to cancel that. So we talked about maybe the best way to handle this vote. I know I can speak for all commissioners. We have all done due diligence over the last time. If you remember how we got to this position, clear back in May, when we first went in with restrictions, and the governor came up with his back on track plan. July 4th was going to be the day that we were going to move into phase 5, and all those things were going to be lifted. So we picked our day to make our decision to be August 3rd, 30 days after that. We'd have 30 days to see if there was a spike in the numbers after things were lifted. Well, it wasn't lifted, if you remember. It was stayed at 4.5, and it was going to stay there until the 18th of July. So likewise, we moved our time back 2 weeks. So again, we would have that 30 days to be able to see if the virus was under control and everything was going to be okay. Because this is such a significant decision for us to have to make here. But then on the 18th, it was decided that we're going to stay 2 more weeks at 4.5, and then later that was extended on to August 27th. We can't wait any longer than now, because we have vendors who need to know if they need to be buying their supplies and to get ready before this Covered Bridge Festival. And so we are at a point where we need to decide if we are going to move forward with this, or if we're not going to move forward with this year. And that's where we are, and that's the main point of our meeting today, even though it's a regular meeting. This is debating. So, I'm gonna ask the, commissioners if they'd like to make a statement before we cast our vote, to explain their positions, and then, we'll all do that, and then we'll cast our vote, and we will move with whatever that decision comes to be. So Bruce, you're the youngster here, you're the rookie on time here, so you get to go first.
I thought I'd be the last one to talk because of your seniority, but that's fine. You know, this decision is a big one. There's no doubt about it. This county has had this festival for many years. It's been, you know, for most people, I think, a blessing to our county. And I think having the festival is an important. But we've also got so many other things to be thinking about when we look at whether to continue this year with the festival or not. And I could probably talk for an hour. I mean, I've been talking to people for months, as we all have, accumulating information, accumulating data, talking to people about their ideas and thoughts. And I could probably talk for an hour, but we're not going to do that. I'm not going to burden the people that are watching online, nor the rest of us here. So I'll do a kind of a cliff note version of my thoughts real quick. First of all, when I look at this, the first question I ask myself, is there a risk? And I have researched, I have talked, and I'll have some more information here in a minute. And I've come to the conclusion that there is absolutely a risk to the people of Parke County. And because that risk exists, we have to seriously consider whether the festival should continue or not. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said the health and the lives of the people of our county are more important than any monetary value that we get out of the festival. I had someone actually tell me the other day, money's no good if you're dead. And so I think we have to acknowledge that we are at a risk if we have the festival. And not just those 10 days of the festival. This is going to expand past the festival. If we have a pandemic here in Parke County, if we create ourselves an epicenter here in Parke County, it's going to last past October 18th when the festival is to be over. There is no way that we can follow any of the guidelines that have been put out by the governor or by the CDC. We cannot social distance. Impossible at Bridgeton. Impossible at Mansfield. We can't enforce people to wear masks, even though they're required to by the governor's executive order. We comply with any of the health requirements that are being put out. And so we've got a huge risk to the people of our county. If you just look at what happened over the last few weeks, you can't say we don't have a risk. We've already got one school that's canceled and not holding classes. Our numbers have gone up over the last few weeks. Vermilion County's numbers have gone tremendously up over the last few weeks to the point that Vermilion County is now past Parke County with the number of positive tests. So the numbers are going up and continuing to go up all around us. We have every other festival, to my knowledge, in the state of Indiana that has canceled. Hill Climb just made their decision last week, which Larry was a part of. The Little Italy Festival is canceled. Larry, you were telling me a festival down around Louisville that brings in about $250,000 a year, just recently canceled. On and on and on and on. Cancellations are going on all over the state. And for us to think we should be any different than what other counties and other people are doing, I just don't think is right. The Big Ten canceled football season. Indianapolis 500 is not having any fans at the race next week. You think all of these things were done without some knowledge and research of people who are in the knowledge of what's going on? And then finally, we've got support that we've all received from our emergency management director who just was in here, who tells us in his position as emergency management director, there is no way that we should have a festival. We have fire departments, we have frontline people telling us they cannot support the festival. I went ahead on my own, and by the way, I do want to thank Dan and Jim for allowing me to kind of spearhead a poll that we had in the Sentinel. And Larry, for you and your staff at the Sentinel, thank you for doing that on your Facebook page. Well, I think it turned out about a 50-50 vote, 52-48, and thanks to all the people who voted. I appreciate that. Well, on my own, I contacted every physician and every nurse practitioner who works in Parke County. And I asked them to fill out a short survey as to whether the festival should be held or not. I only had one doctor out of the 15 that I sent out tell me we should continue to have the festival. That just tells me that the health community is not in support of us to have the festival. They see that as a problem. And I do have those responses right here that I would be glad to share with Dan and Jim. I won't share names. I don't think that's fair to the individual, but they can look at some of the responses and what some of the doctors in our community said. I had one doctor, matter of fact, say instead of the Covered Bridge Festival, let's rename it the COVID Bridge Festival. And that was his thought. He sees this every day. They're doctoring our community. And he sees this as a huge problem. So with all that being said, I have to come to some kind of conclusion. My conclusion is I see no justifiable reason to have the festival. I've not heard from one person that's giving me a justifiable reason to have the festival except money. Except money. And if money means more than the lives of the people of our community, then our priorities are not in the right place. And so, because of that, I will be voting to cancel the Covered Bridge Festival.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Dan?
Okay. I respect your take on the whole thing, Bruce. I have also myself contacted one nurse practitioner. I've talked to one doctor. The nurse practitioner that I have talked to has told me that the numbers are skewed by probably 50%. A lot of the tests they've been giving have been COVID tests, not COVID-19. I do understand the numbers are skewed. That being said, I still don't want to see one person come down. And also, my wife has a business in Bridgeton. She is pretty heavily involved with the Bridge Festival. I know she has spent money already buying stuff for the Bridge Festival. I myself have been accused of not being able to make a fair judgment. I guess it should be said that this winter I will eat, I will pay my bills, whether we have a festival or don't have a festival. that does not play one single part in whether I should make a decision or shouldn't. But I believe it's probably best if I do not make a decision and don't vote and let you, Jim, vote. If I do vote, either way, I'm going to be accused of doing it for money. So I would rather listen to what you guys say, and I'll accept your decision because I don't make my living from the Bridge Festival. It goes towards our retirement. Do I make my living doing that? No, I don't want to be accused of making someone sick or putting money in my pocket or my wife's pocket. So that being said, I want you two to make the decision, and I'm happy with it. Is that fair enough?
Whatever you want to do, that works for you, that works for me. On that line of what you were just talking about, someone online for us posted that, well, that Meece and Collom are going to want to have it because they're both invested in it. We've been there every year, since I was 7 years old, so they're going to have it. So my wife and I talked about it. We decided if we choose to have the festival, then we decided that we just wouldn't set up this year. That way we'll take that conflict of interest out of it. And I had somebody else in the meeting say, well, you better set up. You can't be having those people come in there. You guys hide at home the whole time. So you just can't win on that. So I'm going to finish up this statement that I started talking about a while ago. I know that all of us have had a tough time trying to decide whether to go one way or the other on this. I know we've all done our diligence. I've met with many groups, many people. I've had so many conversations. On the TML, for example, there were 1,333, if I recall correctly, but right at 1,300 transient merchant licenses issued for the Covered Bridge Festival every year. Only 151 of those are Parke County people. 151 out of 1,333. So the biggest impact would be, you would think, on the people outside of Parke County, even business-wise. Of course, the local businesses, the established businesses are going to suffer as well because population will be down. But talking about population, let's just use the number of million because a million has been always thrown around, and that's how many people come during the festival in that 10-day period. And I talked with our health officer today. Right now we have 64 cases and expect one more. We have 23 that are active and one hospitalized. And that's a 20-year-old that's hospitalized, not an old person like me. We've had 9 clinical and 1 death. The ages range from 4 to 88. So it's a real concern. So let's say that our positivity rate is about 12 right now. Let's say it's just 10. If we had 1 million people come in over those 10-day periods, that's 100,000 people who will have passed or would have shown positive on a test. So we would bring in 100,000 infected people into the county to mix amongst our 17,000. And as Bruce said, I think that wouldn't have an impact on us. It's kind of far-fetched, I believe. I think it's hard to make that argument that wouldn't impact us. So let me finish what I talked about our statement here, then we'll have this vote. So there simply is no way to satisfy the economic opportunities and health concerns at the same time. The festival is simply too big and too spread out to maintain adequate levels of safety for the people living in Parke County, the people to whom and for whom we, commissioners, are responsible. To allow such a festival, the state health department would require enforcement of mask requirements and social distancing, and that simply would not be possible. Many of our organizations typically have retired people working their booths, and many of those would not risk exposure. First responders would be in constant contact with visitors, and even if a handful of those first responders, because we have such limited numbers, if a handful of those, as a result of coming in contact with people at Mansfield or Richmond or in Rockville, we lost even a handful of those first responders, we would not have enough first responders to take care of us, and government service or fire departments. And that was a letter we got from the Belmore Fire Department saying that they would not go to Mansfield this year because they're going to have to keep people on stage at the Belmore Fire Department just for that reason, to try to have enough people to take care of us. So that's a real concern. Our schools are trying to open. And as Bruce said, we had one closed down already because of infections. So it would just take a handful of infections of our children to shut the schools down again. The effects could be devastating, could be long range. And I know that there would be people on the fringes, whether it be media or whether it be attorneys, whoever it may be, that would be ready to jump on Parke County should there be a problem following this festival. And I think that's a position we probably don't want to put ourselves into. So I think we have to act on the side of health, and safety, and well-being of our people. And so as such, I, like Bruce, feel compelled to say I think it would not be a responsible or wise decision to move forward this year and take on all that risk for the monetary benefit. So that being said, and I think we all expressed our opinions on this, and to take pressure off of these commissioners, guys, it's going to be unfair. I mean, we're going to be nailed on Facebook either way we go on this decision. So I will take the responsibility of making the motion that out of respect and consideration for the people of Parke County, I make the motion that we cancel the 2020 Cover Bitch Fund, take all steps legally possible to try to limit our exposure and limit the number of people coming into the county as guests or as vendors. And that would be my motion to cancel.
I will say that.
Discussion.
Can anyone that the resident in this town speak?
No, we're having no comment, ma'am.
Thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded that we cancel the festival for 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed.
I have a question. We had a phone call in the office's office today about TML. If you do cancel the festival and someone wants to set up something in their yard, do they fall into TML?
Let's explain what a transient merchant license is. Make sure everybody understands.
What it is.
The transient merchant license, we'll deal with this in a minute, but there will be no transient merchant licenses issued over the Cover Bridge period. If that's our decision, which we'll talk about next meeting. But the way to control that. Now, if you own the property and you have a retail merchant certificate, you can set up at that property and do business.
They have to have a retail.
They have to have a retail merchant certificate. Now,
Does this include yards?
yeah, it always comes up about yard sales. The yard sales are limited to 3 days.
So if they do it for 4 days, yes.
Okay.
And they would not be able to do that because they would not get a transient merchant license.
They will be fine.
So, you know, we don't want to beat up anybody. The idea is to protect us. So I know we'll probably get sued by some people, someplace, who rent spaces to vendors. I understand that you can be sued for anything. But the state statute is on our side. The state statute requires a transient merchant license to do business. We only charge for the transient merchant license during Cover Bridge Festival and Maple Fair, but all activity requires a transient merchant license all year long. So no one can set up and do business any place other than the address on their retail merchant certificate without requiring a transient merchant license. And the fine for that is $500, I think, for the no, it's $1,000.
It can be up to $1,000 for the merchant, and then based on the new ordinance, it would be $500
Per day.
per day for,
And
we
we
have
don't,
multiple merchants, that's multiple.
yeah, be sure you understand that. If I've got 3 vendors set up on my property and they wouldn't have a TML, it won't be issued. That's a $500 fine for me, the landowner, every day that they're open for business.
$1,500.
Yes, for each one, $500 for each one. That's exactly right. Each one each day. I don't want to get in this fight. But we're not. I mean, I'm losing a fourth of our retirement income this year, so it's not like I'm doing this without good consideration for my family as well and my wife as well. But it's what we decided that needs to be done. I hope that people will go along with that and try to protect the people of the county as best they can. And I know everybody won't. I know there will be some who will want to do whatever they possibly can to make sure that they're allowed to have people come back to make that money. I understand that. And I don't blame anyone for taking whatever legal measures are possible to try to counter our decision. They have a right to do that. I understand that. So long as it's a legal operation and a legal method to do it. Just to decide, set up, and play catch me if you can is not something that I would have any respect for whatsoever. So I hope we all understand how difficult this decision was, because we're impacting people either way we go. And the last thing any of us want to do is to negatively impact anybody. But not taking action, in my opinion, would negatively impact us for a long time. And I think even tarnish the image of the Cover Bridge Festival, image of Parke County as we went forward. As Bruce said, every other festival in the state and probably the country has canceled. I don't know why we would possibly think that we are special and it wouldn't impact us as well. So, that being said, Is there any more business that we need to go through? Anybody have any business?
Mr. Meece, what about temporary food permit?
We talk about health department. We will send a letter to the health department not to issue any health permits. That's a good question. Glad you brought that up, but I meant to say that. So the state health department controls the health permit. We control the transient merchant license. We will not issue any transient merchant licenses. I've already talked to the health officer. We will, my suggestion to us would be, in fact, we can make a motion on that, would be to send a letter to the health department requesting that they not issue any temporary health permits as well. So let's do that right now. I'll make the motion that we write a letter to the Parke County Health Department asking them to not issue any health permits, temporary health permits during the 10 days of the Covered Bridge Festival time.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, that's bad. So that's our hope. It's awful for everybody. I hate it. I'm losing just like everybody else is, but I think it's a necessary thing to do. I hope we can all get along and come back next year for even a stronger festival. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.